today's episode of Behind Labour is not what you might think. In order to find out what's going on behind Labour, we need to look elsewhere. We need to look further abroad and see what's going on. So without further ado, let's find out how to co-opt British politics. Now, it's not what you might think. It's not a case of, there's, political parties that are having all sorts of fun and games inside them. No, this comes from outside political parties. This comes from the intelligence community. Now, I've been waiting for this news for ages because I had a sniff that something was coming a while ago, and the Grayzone, a really good blog, if you news organization, if you haven't come across these guys, check them out. The web address is on there. I will share that later. In short, they put out a massive a massive piece all about some leaked emails that had anonymously appeared in their inbox. A huge tranche of stuff coming from Sir Richard Dearlove and various other people. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sir Richard Dearlove was the head of MI6. So literally James Bond's boss, otherwise known as C, his conversations have been revealed to this left-leaning news platform, and all hell has broken loose. The mainstream media have basically been told, you can't touch this. It hasn't been reported anywhere yet. It has gone wild on Twitter and it's all over their news site. In short, as you can see on the screen, emails have been revealed that basically say this cabal of civil servants, of spies, of private financiers, colluded to create Brexit. They work together. So yes, Aaron Banks and the various other people that you've heard about before with Cambridge Analytica, that was one side of it. This was the dark side. This was about smears. This was about getting compromising knowledge on people who you basically didn't want in your way. This is really, really bad stuff. In short, as you can see, the intelligence cabal infiltrated the UK civil service. They found somebody inside the civil service who was willing to pass them confidential papers. Richard Dearlove has been very active in terms of across the board doing things. They've built fake Democratic Party fronts run by CIA veterans. Does that sound familiar to anyone? I think that might have featured on the show somewhere before. They also wanted to disrupt the Prime Minister, as in David Cameron's and Theresa May's top Brexit negotiator. Who was the Labour Party's Brexit negotiator? Can you remember, Crispin?
Yeah, there's a guy with Brill Cream and a lot of Brill Cream.
That's him, Mr. Brill Cream. I remember him. Isn't he called Keith?
Something like that,
yeah, I'm with you now. And basically there was a shed load of money funneled into this in total secret from the USA, from Israel, from various other places as well. It's just bonkers how much information has come to light with this. And they've now turned their guns on Boris Johnson because they feel that he's not Brexity enough anymore. Somehow he's just got bored and he's turned to doing other things like learning how to play the violin. Craig Murray spoke about this and said, this is reporting of once in a generation importance about the British state. While you were being misdirected by Cadwallader and co, she writes for The Guardian, into the entirely unevidenced allegation that Russian intelligence were behind Brexit, it was actually MI6, which is just nuts. This is like crazy stuff. So whatever your views on...
I know, I can see you enjoying this. But you're not.
I'll wind up, sir. So in terms of what this means, let's get into it. In short, do you remember those dodgy ads that were flying around Facebook that were sponsored by Linton Crosby's outfit? These guys were associated with that. They helped arrange funding for it. They helped provide the spies and the various other people to make this work happen. It's very, very clear that the Americans are heavily involved in this. The CIA, the State Department, the Americans' version of the Foreign Office, they're all tied up in this very, very deeply. The Downing Street and the pro-Brexit bunch, these spies have been attacking the British civil service to try and break them down because they felt that the civil service were anti-Brexit. And that will come in a bit more later. And as you can see, Dearlove has been busy promoting anti-Chinese conspiracy theories, anti-Russian conspiracy theories, and various other conspiracies that it appears a certain Keith has bought into. And as you can see at the bottom there, with the proper team around him, he will do well of Boris Johnson. We need a leader who has the charisma and ability to see off Jeremy Corbyn, the threat that is Jeremy Corbyn. Where has this come from? So carrying on, as you can see, they've turned on Johnson. They've decided that he's no longer Brexity enough. And they've mentioned this thing called OODA. We'll talk about that more in the future. That's basically a way of using military grade psyops and intelligence and propaganda practice, military grade. So it's like you're at war. It's a way of shaping any narrative to your advantage. So we'll keep going. And what they've basically said is that the Grayzone considers this to be treason. And this last passage, I'll read this out because I want to keep it quick. The full extent of the individuals, groups and state and non-state institutions in Britain that have been or are currently being maliciously targeted in this manner and by whom or what may never be known. Still, the leaked tranche reviewed by the Grayzone provides the public with some important insights. It is clear, based on this report alone, that clandestine anti-democratic forces have cunningly penetrated the heart of Downing Street and have deployed cloak and dagger methods to fashion the government and its policy according to its desired objectives. Grim. So it basically means our entire government, everything that we are being managed by now, has been crafted carefully in a back shady room somewhere and deployed through smears, manipulation, skullduggery, spying, you name it. Leveraging of secrets, compromising. It's horrible stuff. Now, this begs the question, has this been done before elsewhere? And have we seen a parallel of this behaviour inside the Labour Party? So looking at this, do we know of any intelligence people or people that are associated heavily with the intelligence community inside the Labour Party? Interesting. Do we know of any campaign groups around the Labour Party or inside the Labour Party or factions inside the Labour Party that have been targeted with disinformation, smears and coordinated campaigns of attacks using Twitter bots and various other things? Interesting.
I can think of one there, yeah.
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 Funny that. And do we know anything about any weirdly associated CIA or American Democratic Party fronts that have been shipped in randomly to attack or support certain areas of the Labour Party? Interesting. And as you can see, the rest of here, there's weird parallels that might be appearing with what's happened in the Labour Party. So let's jump into these nice and quick. So in terms of, well-known examples of intelligence people being inside the Labour Party, we know about, Shaima Sot, and we also know about Asaf Kaplan. These are Israeli Unit 8200 people that are inside the Labour Party, well-trained spies, digital warfare experts. We know about Ruth Smith being outed as a CIA asset in the WikiLeaks releases. We know about Mr. Dearlove. This is the the head of the MI6. Here he said, so Richard Dearlove worked for MI6, Britain's external intelligence agency, from 1966 to 2009. From 1999 to 2004, he served as the head of the agency. Since Jeremy Corbyn was elected leader of the Labour Party, Dearlove has written for and briefed the media on numerous occasions about the threat he claims Corbyn poses to Britain's security. So basically, the head of MI6 retired and went private. He became for hire, which is a fascinating result in terms of all the people that he knows. And as we've seen, they targeted pro-Remain groups, especially in the Tory party, but also, as it seems, in Labour. So Labour in for Britain, Britain stronger in Europe, for another Europe as possible. And as you can see, Lord Mandelson features prominently there as well. So what do we know about these fake democratic fronts run by CIA veterans that were proposed to infiltrate pro-Remain groups? Do we know of any of these in the Labour Party? Now, as we previously reported on Behind Labour, Morgan McSweeney has got significant US connections. He basically guides Starmer. He's Starmer's right-hand man. He's the man in the cloak behind the throne. We also reported that he personally is responsible, as reported by the Canary, for a smear campaign online using social media bots, messaging, and a carefully crafted network of supporters to smear left-wing outlets like the Canary, like Dorset Eye, and countless others, Novara Media. Anybody that reports left-wing news in a left-wing viewpoint, they smeared them. And he was the guy that was behind this. He did this as part of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, which is this guy. Imran, I believe is Imran Ahmed. He is the sort of the guy that runs it, but he's not that important in this bit. So we previously reported on this. Interestingly, the CCDH hired this lady, Lindsay Moran, who, used to be a spook, and she's a self-confessed, spy for the CIA. She has those deep connections, and she was brought on as a communications specialist, the head of communications for the CCDH. So it stands to reason that she would be involved in the rest of this process. And this was the guy, Simon Clark. He was the guy that was the key player behind this. He provides the link between the Foreign Policy for America, the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, and countless other connections in the US and the UK. So he's the fixer man behind it. We know that he's involved in the FP Action Network, and the foreign policy aims that they have basically amount to turning the UK into a satellite state, a proxy for the US in the EU, or outside the EU, but in the geographical area. So it's interesting. This cabal sought to spy on and disrupt the Prime Minister's top Brexit negotiator. Have they been interfering with Labour's Brexit negotiator?
Oh. Sorry, I unmuted you by mistake. I muted you by mistake. Are you going to unmute yourself?
There you go. I was waiting for you to. I didn't want to do it and not do it.
Sorry, I had to do it because I thought you were going to say something libelous, and I just had to quickly mute you. I think it worked.
Yeah. I'm a terror, Crispin. So basically, this guy has, he's met with MI5 chief Jonathan Evans in 2013 for drinks in his time as DPP. We also know that he developed a really close relationship with Eric Holder, the US Attorney General, and there have been whispers about other connections with the US security infrastructure. So we know he's got connections to these people. We know that he's had conversations with these people. And when you look into it further, come on, clicky. When you start thinking, okay, where else can this go? Who are the shadowy billionaires that could be behind the Labour Party that could operate in the same way? I'm not saying they are. I'm saying they could. They could be considered to do that. We operate in coulds today, Crispin, no facts here. So in terms of the money that's come into the Labour Party or around the Labour Party, as we have discussed previously, the Labour Together appears to have been the biggest single body that has taken money around the Labour Party to use for various factional purposes. Now, where has that money come from? On the right here, you can see that Russian-linked donors, i.e. Martin Taylor, who is one of the key donors to Labour Together and one of the founding partners of Labour Together, we've seen huge amounts of money flowing into this unaccountable organisation around, but not inside the Labour Party. So who else is involved? So Martin Taylor, he's been investigated by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism and various other people. They've looked into his background, found the Russian connections. We know that he is in charge of a lot of money, and it was very difficult to find him at first from the story. But that's not the crucial bit here. What other organisation has significant links to both the Conservative Party and the Labour Party and might actually be able to pull off a similar or be involved in a similar campaign as the one that we saw happening inside the Tory Party? That's where we get to these guys. Bicom. Bicom is a product of a man called Poju Zabludovitz. If you haven't heard of Poju Zabludovitz, it's with good reason. He doesn't want people to hear about him. In short, this is a lobbying organization for Israel inside the UK. That's exactly what it is. It's for Israel inside the UK. And it donates huge sums of money to various causes within the Tory party and also within the Labour Party. I won't go into it too deeply. You can see what's on the screen here, but the key thing is Poju Zabludovitz. Who is this guy? He literally created Bicom. Trevor Chin is the front man, the point man for Bicom inside the Labour Party, and there's a reason for that. When you look at Poju, you find there's a few headlines that he probably wouldn't want people seeing, such as he's tied to Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption cases. He is the guy behind Elbit Systems, which used to be known as Sultan, which is came about from the company that his dad founded, which is all about weapons dealing. You know, he's a lord of war. He's an arms merchant, a merchant of death, as they sometimes call them. And unfortunately,
I'm sorry, Ben, I'm a bit worried about the look. This guy looks a bit menacing. Can we
he
go
does,
on a
doesn't
bit?
he? Yeah, he
I'm
does.
scared of this
Let's
guy.
move it on. So there will be lots of information. I'll publish this online so you can have a read.
Please, to let people know where they can see it all there. Yeah, and
it'll all be on the Behind Labour Twitter feed, which I'll publish in the comments and elsewhere. So you'll all be able to see all this. But in short, this guy's got interest in mining, in real estate, broadband, weapons.
Weapons.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm worried about the weapons. Yeah,
Me too.
You might have a drone above your house now.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time, Crispin. Wouldn't be the first time. So, in short, we've got candidates for potential shadowy billionaires funneling money into Labour Party and satellite organisation interests. And as you can see, in the past, there has been, we all know about this, we've all been involved directly. There has been a shadowy cabal of people, various different organisations and people trying to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. There are countless of examples of this, so I'm not going to go on about it. But in short, people like Dame Margaret Hodge, and I'll come on to her in the future, have been absolutely pummeling Corbyn to try and get rid of him, even from existence in the Labour Party. They want him out. They want him gone from politics. This is psychological warfare against an entire group of people, an entire ideology, the left. They want us gone and out of it. And now looking at the reports from that leak, we can understand why. The mentality of the people, the way they do this, it's war for them. It's not just a political campaign. It's actually war. So remember, in the previous episode of Behind Labour, we asked a question, and it wasn't the question that people thought it was. It's not who's funding the Labour Party. It's who owns and profits from the companies and groups and around Labour, servicing often overseas private clients, their money and their agendas. And looking at these leaked emails, we can understand why. There are lots of people out there who have a vested interest in controlling both sides of the Houses of Parliament, the Tories and Labour. Their view is that unless they control both sides, they haven't done their job. So it stands to reason that the Labour Party has been under attack. The people in the Labour Party who actually have an interest in a democratic mandate for policy have been pushed out, have been put aside. And it means that British democracy, in my view, and probably in a lot of the views of the people watching this show, it's not working anymore. We have essentially been subjected to a war, and we are now under the guise of regime change. So too long didn't read. British people have been subjected to state-sponsored terrorism by domestic and foreign agencies on behalf of private interests, using civil servants and military personnel, including private military contractors, to facilitate UK regime change in both the UK Gov and the official opposition. In short, we're in trouble, Crispin. Real trouble.